Hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Career Ready podcast. If you like what you hear in today's episode, make sure you subscribe and leave a listener review. I'm Pierre Michaels, one of the hosts of the podcast with Rebecca and Michelle. If you were with us from episode 1, you'll find this one a little bit different as we have an interview in this episode.
In today's episode, we've got this interview with Bob Lapinski, our office's Workforce Connections Coordinator, to help us understand trends in today's job market. We've also got listener mail questions. But first, Pierre is going to talk to us about what skills employers are looking for in an ideal candidate.
Thanks, Rebecca, and I'm excited to introduce a new segment that you'll see us bring back every so often. We're calling it the Competency of the Day. But before we get into what that will look like in future episodes, I just want to define competencies and tell you why it's important. Competencies is a fancy word that reflects skills, but it takes it to the next level. Competencies are characteristics that we have to help us perform on the job and be more efficient on our projects and what we're doing as we move forward.
Thank you for defining that, because competency is a weird word. It's not something we use in everyday language, but I think it's really important to think about that we're not just talking about like, I've got a knack for this or a skill for this. It's like, no, like how can we elevate this and bring it to the workforce?
And a lot of times I'll just use it interchangeably, competencies and skills, but they are different, right? Skills are just skills, but competencies, these are part of who we are and how we're presenting them. So it's really important to pay attention to that. And the way that we can focus in on competencies, or what helps give us some directions, is NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And NACE is a professional association made up of employers and college professionals, such as those here on the podcast. And it's important part to bridge that connection, because NACE is surveying employers for us, and they're helping identify those competencies that they're looking for. And repeatedly, they're coming back with the same top 8 skill sets or competencies, those being critical thinking, communication, technology, teamwork, multicultural fluency or equity and inclusion, professionalism, leadership, and that's 7.
I think the last one is career and self-development.
Oh, thank you. Career and self-development. I should remember that. That's what we're doing here, right?
The whole point of this, I guess.
Yeah. So, these are the 8 competencies, and to help identify these from the employers is really helpful, because it doesn't matter what region they're in, what industry they're in. All employers are coming back with these are those competencies, those skill sets that they want. And in future episodes, we'll do a deeper dive into these 8, and we'll revisit them and look at behaviors associated with each. But for now, we're going to go ahead and share an interview with you that Rebecca did with Bob Lapinski, and they're discussing the current job market. Bob is he's the Workforce Connection Coordinator for College of DuPage and the Career Services Center, so he naturally keeps a tight watch on the labor market, and I hope you enjoy what he has to say.
I'm Rebecca Harrington, and I'm here today with Bob Lapinski. He is the College of DuPage's Career Services Workforce Connections Coordinator. He's the one we go to when we want to know what employers are talking about. Bob, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Rebecca. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm looking forward to this discussion today.
It's very exciting. We know that listeners are interested in learning about what are the trends in the workforce, so you're the guy for this. So
Okay.
Let's get into it. Actually, before we start, though, talking about today's job market, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what this job is that you do as Workforce Connections Coordinator?
Okay, great. I have a long career. I've had a long career in media relations, public relations, primarily in the financial services arena. And I come to the College of DuPage after about 45 years of that, mostly in insurance and banking. I was a student at College of DuPage back in the mid-'70s.
Wow.
And this has been a chance to come back, and I love it. I can't tell you what a great experience it's been. My role here is really to connect the college with employers, local, regional, national employers, to get a better understanding of what their needs are, what our opportunities are for students, and how we can bring the two together. And there are lots of ways that we can right now. There are so many opportunities for community college students of all disciplines, and it's exciting. And I could tell you that employers are really looking to our students and are excited about any opportunity that they can have to meet them and look to them as possible employees.
Yeah, it's super exciting. We were so excited that you joined us, that chose us as your employer, because we get to steal all that information, all the expertise you have from your career and all the different industries you worked in. So we're excited to have you. And I'm curious then to kind of pick your brain a little bit.
Sure.
Over the last few months or year even, or however long you've been with us, it feels like it's been a while, but I know it hasn't been that long. But what trends have you noticed with what jobs are getting posted on our job board, or just kind of jobs posted in general?
Right. I think the first thing to point out is that I see more remote jobs now listed than ever before. Clearly, it's a trend in industry and business. Whenever a remote job is possible or a hybrid opportunity is possible, that these are the kinds of jobs that are listed that we've never seen in the past. So that's one thing. Employers are really having a difficult time finding workers with the skills necessary to do their job. There are really just so many different opportunities now. There's a lot of jobs open out there. There are really a lot of jobs open in many, many different fields. And another thing about that remote work, we see more opportunities now for non-employee jobs, freelance type positions, self-employment opportunities. Opportunities for people to take their skills and do them for multiple employers on their own. So we see a lot of that also. But those are some of the trends, general trends that we see out there. And then obviously it depends on industry and job too.
Sure. I've noticed that myself. We meet with the job seekers, and kind of you're meeting with the employers and looking at them. But I know job seekers are looking for remote opportunities, and they're always asking me, well, what's a job that I could do remotely? And my answer now is, well, almost any.
Right.
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 I mean, it's really changed what employers consider something that can be done potentially remotely or in a hybrid state. So it's really interesting that you kind of see that too.
Absolutely.
Good confirmation for all of us to know. So I almost feel like if you're trying to figure out what industry you want to go in, but you want to have that remote or hybrid opportunity, I mean, sure, there are a few jobs where that's not going to be possible.
Right.
But
right.
more than ever, you don't have to limit yourself when you're thinking about
No, you really don't.
What career path you go into.
You don't, and there are ways to grow yourself in even in remote opportunities. Sometimes it could be a little more challenging, and you do have to be careful about how you develop your career and how you'd mix that personal interaction with the remote opportunities. But there are many, and there are good ones out there.
Absolutely. Are there any particular industries that you kind of noticed are maybe more popular than others when you're looking at the number of job postings out there?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll start out with computer and information technology. IT jobs are aplenty out there right now, and really good opportunities. A related area is cybersecurity. I mean, there are many cybersecurity positions, companies that need to protect their data, and so many IT jobs are available. But there are other industries that are desperately in need of qualified, trained people. Healthcare rises to the top. All areas of healthcare. And fortunately, at College of DuPage, we've got an excellent program that trains people in that area, as we do in IT. Business and finance, always kind of a need for those types of positions, and that remains Retail, we see so many opportunities in retail again now. Even though a lot of the stuff that we buy, we're having delivered to our homes, there are still jobs aplenty in retail. And, you almost can't walk by a store without seeing a help wanted sign up. Food and hospitality, another area. Hotels, restaurants, lots of opportunities there in those industries. Education, if you want to be a teacher, this is a great time to be a teacher. Really good opportunities available there. And then arts and entertainment, once again, kind of related to hospitality, but clearly in that area also. So those are probably the most popular industries that we're seeing right now. And I wanted to quickly, if I could, Rebecca, mention we've got a job site called Chaps Get Hired, and when you talk about the number of jobs that are available that I was referencing these industries from, so many more jobs are posted now than we ever have in the past. This year so far, we've posted, if you can believe this, 4,000 new jobs to that site between January 1st and mid-August now. So an incredible number, twice as many as we saw in the previous year when hiring was beginning to ramp up again. So, this comes from a pretty robust base of opportunities available. And, hey, it's a good time to find a job and to get a good one.
Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting to hear because I think, so, we've got the IT and the healthcare is just kind of constant, right? Like those are always the big industries. But then it's interesting to hear you talk about retail and hospitality and entertainment because I think people are now kind of going back to that services. For a while, we were kind of staying home and just kind of doing things from home, and now we're getting out there again. And so those industries who had maybe laid off people or weren't hiring as much are now hiring again. So that's interesting to hear that's kind of, you kind of suspect that's the case, but then to hear like, nope, those are the kind of jobs that people are posting out there is interesting.
Exactly. And, I should add a couple things too. Manufacturing, construction, HVAC, auto repair, a host of opportunities there. And when you really look at what we can train and prepare folks for here at College of DuPage, that sure lines up with some of our specialties. But Rebecca, I'm glad to share some of the specific jobs. We talked about industries, but jobs within IT security, any kind of healthcare-related position, nursing positions. I can't tell you how many job openings I've seen across the board for nurses, for qualified medical people. And I mentioned education, retail, hospitality, a lot of those. But a lot of interesting jobs in manufacturing now, because one of the things we're hearing from employers is that they don't have people trained with the skill to do the jobs that are out there, that are available. And manufacturing is one of the prime areas there. There is so much technology involved in a manufacturing setting now that, I think it was assumed in the past that somebody, without a whole lot of education could walk in and work in a manufacturing plant. That is not the case anymore. And so there are real, good opportunities there also.
Yeah, that's great to hear. So I just had a few more questions for you.
Sure.
When you talk to employers, what would you say they're most concerned about right now? I mean, I think we've kind of touched on it a little bit here, but what would you say?
Well, there's a couple skills that they look for. So once they look at your background, you kind of have the general coursework. Do you have the employment skills necessary? Then they start to look at the person and say, okay, what can this individual offer that really lines up well with what we need? And universally, I don't care if it's, your job or your personal relationships, communication is the most important thing. And it doesn't matter what it is, but doggone it, you really need to be able to communicate well. And they'll look for that. Employers will look for that in the interview process, both written and the verbal interview process. Critical thinking, just the ability to take a look at how something is done and say, that's good, but what about such and such? And I think that's another real good skill that they're looking for. They'd like to see leadership. They want somebody that's going to be able to grow in the company. And in order to grow, it doesn't just mean being bossy. It means because we can all do that. But it's being able to know how to rally a team together. Kind of leads to the next one I was going to mention, teamwork. They also want to see that. If an employer has a feeling that you'll come in and maybe be disruptive to the team and its cohesiveness, that's going to make it very difficult for you to succeed in that environment. Also, good technology skills. The ability to navigate all the new technology that's available now is certainly very, very important. And then I think maybe the last thing is there are two things really, and not any less important. The whole opportunity that we have in the area of equity and inclusion right now. It's really important. Companies, corporations have looked to that and identified where they need to do a better job there. So they are clearly going to look for people who can follow that and really lend a whole new perspective to what we need to do to be successful as a corporation, as an employer, as an employee. And it really involves good understanding of and ways to look at equity and inclusion opportunities. And then last but not least, I think they want somebody who has an idea of where they want their career to go. You don't need to know that in 5 years you're going to be a blank, but I think they want to see energy. They want to see ambition, and that's another thing that kind of rises to the surface. So those are the things we see, and they line up quite well with. There's an organization called the National Association of Colleges and Employers, and I know you know about that, Rebecca.
Yeah, we actually just talked about it right before this interview on this
perfect.
show. So hopefully, listeners, this is just a nice reminder. We're getting a backup. It's not just us saying it.
Oh,
right?
It's not. Trust me.
Others are saying it as well.
Employers are definitely looking to that, and it really lines up perfectly with what they're looking for. So as you train out there, those are the areas that you want to be good in.
Absolutely. The technical skills are really important, but also important are all these other skills that you're going to take with you throughout your career, for sure.
Right.
So last thing, any other tips or information you want to share to those job seekers out there?
Yeah, I mainly want to offer encouragement. At times, you're finding that first job or the first entree into a career can be difficult, and sometimes the step that you take initially, you might say, gee, that's not the way I wanted to go about this. But sometimes things have a funny way of working out. When I started my career, I knew I was a journalism major. I knew I wanted to go into corporate public relations. But without any experience there and just a young man out of college, there really weren't that many opportunities. So I went to work selling insurance for a large company, Liberty Mutual. But then that led to a pretty quick opportunity at Allstate in their corporate headquarters. And the only reason I got that job is because I had that insurance background. I had some understanding I was licensed to sell all lines of insurance, so I understood the product. And then I could write a little bit, so the two came together. So, always just keep an open mind. Keep your chin up and know that good things will come your way. The main thing is get a good, strong education. Because you that's always the foundation and the base.
Absolutely. Even if whether it's a 4-year degree, a certificate, a 2-year degree, any kind of education beyond high school is going to improve your prospects.
Boy, that's for sure. That's for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here today, Bob. We really appreciate hearing all of your excellent information.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. It's been a pleasure being here, and best of luck to you, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So what did you guys think of my interview with Bob?
Well, Bob always has such great information to share. Can always fill the time with the knowledge he has, the experiences he has. But even before we get into a lot of those questions that you shared, the first thing that stuck out to me, that very first question, basically tell me about yourself, tell me about your experiences. He started talking about his background, media relations, public relations. That's not what he does with us. I mean, it's part of what he does, but he was in banking and insurance.
Right.
So he has all these skill sets, these competencies that are kind of the theme of today's episode, I guess, that he is bringing with him that makes him really successful as he connects with our employers.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it reminds me, now that you started saying that, it's kind of like that question you get always at the interview, right? Which is, tell me a little bit about yourself, right? And, he doesn't start off with like, oh, this is where I live, or like, this is, these are my hobbies, right? No, like he dives into his skill set, his work background, kind of all the relevant information that he wants to share.
We know how hard that question can be. Tell me about yourself. That's the toughest.
It really is. So, Michelle, did you notice what he did during the interview? The when he was talking about the skills that employers want?
What did he do?
He listed the NACE competencies.
He did. Oh my goodness. Yeah, he was on top of it, I'll tell you.
He did not know that this was the competencies episode. Like he did not know that we had like just talked about that right before. So if that means anything to you as a listener, like it's not just us saying it.
Yeah, we invite him to talk about the job market, and naturally he's bringing up those skill sets that, I mean, the employers are looking for them. So it makes sense he brings them up, but he did that on his own.
Absolutely. And I was super interested that he brought up remote work. I was not expecting that. I don't know why I wasn't expecting it, but I wasn't. Do you guys see that too when you're talking to job seekers, clients?
Yeah, I would say when I do see clients and job seekers, they really want remote work because I feel like it's so convenient for them. They can live anywhere, and they're just really looking for that right now. So it's good to know that those are open.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Any other things that came up?
Well, just a note on that remote work first. I think that's really the employers responding to where the market's at right now. Because you hear some employers are hesitant about it, but they realize if they want talented people, they have to provide this now. So it's good that they're responding to it. So to go through that job search and make sure you're looking for either remote or hybrid, and however that may shake out with that company. That's good to know that that is out there as that option.
Yeah. Now, I will say one caveat to this is I did read an article recently that was talking about smaller cities. So like Columbus, Ohio, I think was the one example that they had. There is actually a higher percentage of people back in the office than in bigger cities. Or maybe even more remote locations too. There's something about maybe it's like a shorter commute or just kind of a different expectation. But I still think even there are more remote opportunities. And hey, those remote opportunities don't have to be in that city, right? They can be jobs in Chicago for that matter.
That's the beauty of remote work.
Yeah, definitely.
Vacation in Hawaii and you're still working in Chicago.
Well, I've actually had friends, so they have remote jobs and they'll just go to like Arizona or they'll go on vacation. They just work from there. So it's really convenient. A lot of people want that.
Yeah, right. It's you can choose your own lifestyle. Like, hashtag van life and can go wherever. What do you guys think about the industries that he talked about as kind of the top industries? He talked about informational technology, healthcare, education.
Yeah, I feel like with retail and education, that didn't really surprise me. Like what Bob was saying with retail, I see those help wanted signs everywhere. And I know with education, I do have some family members in education that are exiting the field. So a lot of teachers, I think, are exiting right now. So that didn't really surprise me. But I'm glad he brought that up.
Sticking with the remote work and the IT and cybersecurity, I think those go hand in hand.
That's true.
People are working in different settings, so that cybersecurity to protect company information and how that's being transmitted through the web, that's going to only increase as we move forward. So it's not just a reaction to the pandemic, but how we're moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think I did read even just a few years ago about the fact that the United States is short-staffed when it comes to cybersecurity. And I think some of that can be the real high level, like we're protecting corporate secrets kind of thing, government secrets. But it also is just that day-to-day making sure that email communications are secure, that the phishing emails aren't getting through, or that helping train employees to know, what to look for. So, that our College of DuPage has a cybersecurity program, and I'm positive there's more out there all around the country. Definitely an interesting career path. Anything else from the interview?
Well, I just want to say the jobs posted, that's insane. 4,000 jobs posted. I think, don't quote me on this, but when I was talking to Bob, I think it was a semester ago, he said during the pandemic there were maybe like 200 or 300 posted, and now it's 4,000.
Yeah, definitely roaring.
Yep, that resource is blowing up. It's waiting for job seekers.
Yeah. And actually, that just made me think. One last comment I would say is, if you are an alumni, of a college, or you've got that local college near you, your local community college, I'm guessing they have a job board just like we do. And it's a great place to go to look for work, because not every it's not like an Indeed or some bigger, job board where employers are getting people from everywhere and getting all sorts of just kind of crazy resumes they have to sift through. But when you go to a kind of a more focused job board like that as an employer, you're not getting as many resumes. So you as the job seeker are more likely to be seen, which is pretty good.
Last thing I want to throw out there, starting off with the first question. Now I want to go to the last question.
Okay.
He shared a lot of good information about the job market, but just like his advice from his experience is so helpful. So the other tips, information to walk away with, he said, it's funny way things work out. So there's this whole idea of planned happenstance. Are you guys familiar with this?
No.
I don't think so, no.
So this is a whole career theory that we don't dive super deep into, at least in the theory of it, but in the application of it. And this is having ideas of your goals and making things happen, right? Kind of by chance, networking, but all of a sudden now you know people. So then when an internship happens at that place, so things have a funny way of working out, but being able to put yourself out there, use resources, and apply what we're going to be talking about as we move forward with this podcast. Great information to help create things working out in a funny way for you.
Yeah, our career path is rarely a linear path as much as we think it's supposed to be.
I was going to say I wanted to be a counselor, and I thought I wanted to work with teens, but then I had an internship and that didn't work out. So, based off that experience, I figured, okay, well, I need to change my career path. So I ended up shadowing somebody in academic advising, being with college students, and that's where I am today. And I loved it. So Bob's advice was spot on.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Bob, out there in the world. We appreciate you coming on the show. I'm sure we'll have Bob back. So if you've got questions, definitely send them to us. And we'll have more interviews too. So we're excited to bring those to you when we can. I think bringing in other experts is going to be really helpful for us. All right, so we've got one last section today. We've got our listener question.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. So we did have a listener ask something specifically. They said, I don't have all the skills listed on the job posting. Should I still apply? So the answer to that is absolutely. Definitely still apply, and I'll explain why. But we usually say be at least 80% qualified for a job so that you're not wasting your time or the employer's time. But it really never hurts to apply, because even if you don't have the exact skills listed on the job posting, you may have similar skills that you can speak to. So these are called transferable skills, or skills that you can transfer from job to job. So say, for example, an employer is asking you to be familiar with a specific type of software or technology. That may be really common these days. You may have not had a chance to use that particular software in a job or a previous job, but in your professional documents and in an interview, you can really speak to the types of technology that you're familiar with and emphasize that you're a fast learner. So maybe in a previous role, you had to learn a program really quickly in order to complete daily tasks. And if you did this shows an employer that you're then willing to put in the effort to learn what you need to learn at their company in order to do well on the job. So if you do see an opportunity that you think would be a good fit, just go ahead and apply. Don't limit yourself, and also be confident and what you bring to the table.
That sounds a lot like the technology competency.
You're spot on.
Yeah. No, that's I completely agree. I think I like the 80-20. That's a nice way of thinking about it. Not that it has to be exactly perfect, but and then to think of those transferable skills, which often are related to the competencies that we've been talking about. I think that's a great way to look at it.
Thanks again to all of our listeners, and special thanks again to Bob Lapinski, our Workforce Connections Coordinator, for joining us on the podcast. Be sure to tune in to our next episode, as we're going to do a deeper dive into transferable skills and what those are. Also, with our listener questions, be sure to email us at careerpodcast@cod.edu with any questions that you have.
And be sure to follow us on social media at COD Career Center.
Bye.
Bye.